we are here because Sergeant Hanley is beginning his Superior Court trial for assaulting Mr. Rashad Moore, April 19th, 2020. Sergeant Hanley was found guilty of a misdemeanor assault in district court, and today he is starting his pretrial conference in Superior Court on his appeal, where he will also have a full jury trial. We are concerned because Sergeant Hanley still remains on the Providence police force. He has not been disciplined and he has not been fired. It's my understanding that he's not being paid, but it's my understanding he is probably accruing time in the Providence police retirement system. And as a concerned Rhode Island taxpayer, that is not okay with me. So we are here today in honor of saying that the lives and the dignity of all Rhode Islanders, black and white, matters to us, and it matters to us that our police officers are protected by 17 statutes called LEOBoR, and they cannot be disciplined and they cannot be fired even when they have been found guilty of a criminal offense until they go through what's called a LEOBoR hearing. And the LEOBoR hearing is in front of 3 fellow police officers. And we believe that LEOBoR is no longer okay with Rhode Islanders. We want it abolished. And we want police officers to be able to be disciplined by their chiefs of police. A chief of police ought to be able to discipline his police force. So currently pending before the Rhode Island Senate is Senate Bill S597. S597 would abolish LEOBoR, these 17 statutes which prevent chiefs of police from disciplining their officers. We do not want S573 to be held for further study. We want 773 to be voted on by the Senate Judiciary Committee, and we want it to pass and go to the full Senate, and we want it to also then go to the House to be voted on and enacted. We are tired of LEOBoR. If the state of Maryland, which has a terrible history of racism, can abolish LEOBoR, so can Rhode Island, which is actually a beacon of liberty and freedom. Also, we want the House to pass H5993 and the Senate to pass S597. H5993 and S597 are companion bills. They would enact the Rashad K, Gore Justice in Policing Act, and that would ban chokeholds, and it would ban officers kicking people in the head, and it would ban officers from using their police vehicles as weapons. These are sensible measures, and we need them now.
Can I ask about the LEOBoR? There are also a couple of bills in to reform LEOBoR. And how do you feel about the reform bills?
No, I think that time has passed. I think we need to just abolish LEOBoR.
Did you follow at all the Senator Bett's hearings over the last year about the reform LEOBoR and the way the vote went? Because at one point it was actually on the agenda to vote on whether or not the commission would support repealing LEOBoR, and it lost, but it seemed to me it lost because of the makeup of the board more than the arguments that were made.
Well, I know that Jim Vincent, who leads our NAACP, he is in favor of abolishing LEOBoR.
Yes, he voted yes.
And I understand that Mayor Elorza has stated publicly in testimony before the House Judiciary Committee that he is in favor of abolishing LEOBoR.
Right.
These are two big leaders in our community. Mayor Elorza and Jim Vincent, and if they want to abolish LEOBoR, I want to abolish LEOBoR.
I also want to just thank Senator Metz and Rep. Anastasia Williams for their hard work in bringing the LEOBoR issue to the public, and that's how I first heard about it, was actually through Anastasia Williams, who does incredible work ongoing. And so I just want to say that abolishing LEOBoR is our goal. We believe that is the best thing to do, and but that is part of a long process of work that's happened before this, that this does not in any way denigrate the hard work that came before. This is only possible because of those earlier steps that were put in place by those hardworking advocates, you know. So I just want to say that.
Well, we also believe that abolishing LEOBoR is the key to increasing trust. Right now, there's been a breach. There's been this breach of trust, not only because of Sergeant Hanley's case. There's been a breach of trust in the day-to-day experiences of people of color of our community. And quite frankly, this would go a long way towards a greater sense of transparency and public accountability for the actions of police officers. And with that, we hope with the abolishing of LEOBoR that there will be a sense of greater trust and maybe even building up relationships that will be meaningful and productive going into the future.
One of the things about the Sergeant Hanley case that occurred to me is that there were other officers on the scene. It was never reported until the release of a civilian camera footage video, and those other officers, as far as I know, are receiving no discipline at all either, even though they witnessed this act, and even though they were maybe not participants, but they didn't do anything to intervene. Do you have any ideas on that, or any statements on that?
I am deeply concerned. I think it points to a culture of intimidation, which is rampant in the Providence Police Department. I believe those officers probably feel conflicted. They feel a certain amount of guilt of not being able to step in. Officer Lugo did hit his body cam,
yes,
and he was only 6 months out of the police academy. If we have to rely on our very young officers to help bring accountability to the police department, we are in a bad way. That is one thing, though. This officers needing to intervene is part of Representative Batista's bill, H5993, and the companion bill in the Senate, S597. Those would mandate fellow officers, if they see unjustified, excessive use of force, a citizen handcuffed on the ground, being kicked in the head, being punched, having an officer walk on the back of his legs, those officers would need to intervene. They would be required to, and a report would have to be written.
Currently, the officer's use of force, there is a stipulation about how the officers underneath the ranking officer must behave, and it's that they must fall in line with that officer. So that's obviously something that should be adjusted if you're going to have a sergeant like Sergeant Hanley, who was the top of the chain that day. You know, for those officers to stand up and oppose that would have actually been for them a challenge to what they've already been trained not to do, and so that would need to be addressed. And I also I want to just amplify the reference to José Batista, who was the executive director of PARA, the Civilian Police Reform Group, and he bravely gave the public access to the video recordings, which were being withheld from the public. And he did that as something that he felt was very important, and he ended up losing his job because of it. And our state is probably better off for it because now he's legislating, and you know, in his first year as a freshman, he has brought legislation, and that's pretty unusual. And so I look forward to seeing what he'll do in the future. But he made a great sacrifice to help bring this to the awareness of the public.
He did. He is fighting for our Constitution, for our civil rights, for control of our government, as we should have. He is a hero.